Welcome to Hidden Creatures, McFap podcast with father and son and father, something like that. So today on this podcast interview, exploration into the weird and unknown, we have MC, has a couple stories for us today, but we're going to use the term McFap quite a bit. So to touch on what McFap stands for, MCFAP, it stands for
mythical,
cryptid,
alien.
Oh, Faye.
Wait, Faye?
Faye before alien.
Oh, yeah.
McFap, not McAf. Should we start again?
Sure.
Okay, mythical.
Cryptid.
Fairy.
Alien.
Paranormal. That's what it is. That's what it is. And, and we're keeping this family friendly. So hopefully, people of all ages can sit together and enjoy this. We're not going to get too scary. We're going to stay away from colorful language because our goal is for a family to enjoy this together.
Yeah.
Cool. Also, we're not professionals.
We are not.
We're just two dudes who are exploring this world and have invited people to come on and explore it with us. So I hope you're not expecting like first class podcasting etiquette because you're not going to get it.
Yeah, no.
We're going to do our best, but this is also a learning process. But just, set your expectations early. Two guys figuring it out. So yeah, join us on our journey. We're glad you are with us. MC is with us today. She has some good stories I'm excited to get into. Do you have anything to say before we start?
I don't think so.
Excellent. With that, MC, would you like to introduce yourself and go into a story?
Hi, I'm MC. I started seeing things that I'm going to say were ghosts when I was a little kid, but not so much as an adult. And one of the last times I saw something that kind of freaked me out, I was living in Washington, D.C., and I was driving a borrowed car kind of in the middle of the afternoon. So it was light outside, and I was approaching an intersection in a 4-lane street, and I was in one of the center lanes. And as I was approaching the intersection, the light was turning red. And kind of like off in my peripheral, there were some people standing on the sidewalk. It looked like a bus stop or something. I wasn't really paying attention. But one of those people looked like a guy, maybe around 30 years old, wearing a blue suit. So as I'm approaching the traffic light, it looks as if the guy in the blue suit is stepping off the curb and walking toward my car. And this was before Uber was really in DC, and also this was like a station wagon, like a blue station wagon. So it would not have been an Uber type of car anyway. So I was kind of confused as to why this guy was walking toward the car. But then it really seemed like he was going to try to get in the car. And I kind of panicked a little bit, and I tried to check to make sure the doors were locked. And it looked as if he was reaching out for the passenger side door handle. And I'm looking down at my driver's side door to like make sure that the doors are locked. And when I look back up again, there was no guy. There's no guy in the street. And then when the light turned green, I just drove away.
Cool. So that's story number A.
Story number A.
Good. Are you okay if Rainey and I ask questions?
Sure.
Do you have any?
I don't think I have any questions.
So was this in like Old Town or was it in DC proper?
It was in DC proper. It was on 14th Street, which if you're familiar with DC, again, it's a pretty busy like 4-lane street. But this was, in the afternoon. And I would say I was somewhere around P Street, maybe, in Northwest. So in the vicinity of, again, if you're familiar with DC, like the Black Cat, around that area.
Okay.
I might be familiar with that area. He may not be.
Yeah.
Because Old Town is chock full of mysterious things.
And I do have like a little bit of a story about my teenage years in Old Town as well. But no, this was in the city of DC proper. When I used to live, I had a garden apartment on 17th and U Street Northwest. So I was leaving my apartment to go somewhere, driving down 14th Street.
So like the suit this thing was wearing, was it like a business suit?
Yeah, he kind of looked like he might have been like a Capitol Hill staffer, or maybe like he worked for a nonprofit or something. Like it was a nice suit. It was modern. It was contemporary. And like I said, it was like a blue color.
Gotcha. You have thrown all my theories out the window. Destroyed all of them. Because at first, my theory was like Revolutionary War, Civil War, soldier.
Yeah, no, this guy was totally contemporary looking.
And then I was thinking, like, this dude was killed there when that part of town was a little seedier than it is now.
Right.
You've thrown all that out the window.
Yeah.
So
I mean, unless there are some people who theorize that ghosts can change their clothes, but it really looked like this guy was, leaving work. Or maybe he was struck by a car in somewhere around there.
we can get into ghost theory later about what ghosts are. We can get into that later. Do you have any other questions about this, Rainey?
I don't think so.
Can she tell her next story?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Share with us another story.
Okay, I'll stick to the same time period. Again, my garden level apartment on 17th and U Street. This one was just something I would see every now and then in my apartment. It was a shadow on the wall. So the way that our apartment was set up, we only had a few windows. And we were, for the most part, below ground level. So the front door to our apartment was in like a little stairwell. And so the front door was glass and there was a window beside the front door. And that was the only window in the living room kitchen area. We had a window in the bathroom that didn't face toward the hallway. It faced toward a stairwell at the back of our apartment. My roommate's bedroom had two windows that also faced the wall of that stairwell at the back of our apartment. And then in my bedroom, I only had a small window high up on the wall that was in like a brick window well. So in the back of the apartment where the bedrooms were, there was no window that would like project light directly from the outside where you would be able to see the silhouette of a person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So sometimes when I would be in my bedroom and I would be home alone, and for the most part, the lights would be out in the apartment, I would see a shadow in the hallway outside of my bedroom on the wall, but there was nowhere for that shadow to be projected from. So the most logical explanation would be that there was someone in my roommate's room or outside of my roommate's windows or whatever, which when she was home would be covered by blinds. But again, there's no light source out there. You're looking directly at a concrete wall across a staircase. So yeah, in my old DC garden level apartment, there was a shadow thing that would walk up and down my hallway.
Do you have any theories, questions, queries?
No, I don't think so.
You don't have any guesses what this thing can be?
No.
I do. So, like, was this thing person-sized?
Yes.
And did you ever get any vibes from it?
I mean, it kind of freaked me out, but I never saw it come into my bedroom. So that was a positive thing. And I frequently tried to rationalize it myself. But like I said, I couldn't figure out a light source that would put a silhouette like that in our hallway. The other thing was that it just looked like a shadow on the wall. It wasn't like a independent mass or anything like that standing that I could see. It was just this shadow, person-sized shadow that would be on the wall in the hallway, and it did move.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know where I stand on belief in all of these things, right? Some weird things have happened to me. I've experienced some weird things, but like I'm not willing to say, okay, this is definitely Bigfoot or the two-headed chicken monster or whatever. Okay. So as he and I have been exploring these things, I've been more exposed to various things and various ideas and types of creatures and beings and all of that. And I'm not saying these things don't exist. Like people have experiences, something weird is happening, and whatever weird is happening doesn't fit into our defined scientific textbooks.
Yeah.
Okay. I just don't, in my head, I just don't know what these things are. Mm-hmm. But having said that, I have two theories, two guesses.
I'm ready to hear
on what this shadow is. Guess number one. So one of the podcasts that Rainey and I listen to is out of Canada, and he interviews people about their fairy experiences. And some of the experiences sound very similar to what you're describing.
Yeah.
However, like it's just this opaque thing. Like it doesn't necessarily have a defined shape or it's not a tangible object you can touch, but it's this opaque movement that is seen. Most people that I've heard interviews from are typically smaller in size than human size, but whatever, who knows. Fairies are magical creatures. They can do whatever they want. Guess number 2 is shadow people.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I was asking if you got like vibes from it.
At other points in my life, I have definitely walked into a place and gotten like heebie-jeebies, like my skin crawls. I don't like being in a room. This thing, like I said, it kind of freaked me out because I couldn't figure out why there would be a shadow in my apartment, you know? Yeah. But again, I never saw it come into my bedroom. It never seemed to pass my bedroom door, at least that I observed it doing. And I didn't really get like skin crawly vibes from that apartment. I actually liked that apartment. So yeah.
So overall, it was a respectful creature.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit of a peeping Tom or something. I don't know, but it was hanging out. It seemed like it was respecting my personal space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my understanding with shadow creatures is that there's more of a dark aura to them.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I seem to be hearing about them as well.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Any other questions?
About how far up was this shadow of the person?
I wouldn't say it wasn't like really tall. Like it wasn't even like 6 feet tall. It didn't appear to be child size, but it seemed like a maybe shorter adult size. For some reason, it gave off male energy to me. But yeah, it was let's say less than 5'10" adult size male vibes.
Okay, so it was definitely adult size, not necessarily a tall child.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So also, I mean, I will say too that this house was older. It's like an older row home. So the house itself was maybe built early 1900s-ish. So it probably had a little bit of history to it.
So definitely a time when Grandpa died, they left him in the front room so everybody could come and look at the body for a while before they moved him out.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Gotcha. Or, Brother Jonas died of typhoid.
Yeah, it was popular around then.
Yep. Okay, cool.
Spanish flu.
Oh, tuberculosis.
Possibly, yeah, the consumption.
Yeah. Maybe some tetanus. Got some lockjaw and couldn't eat.
Oh, yeah.
Withered away.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, this thing didn't look like emaciated, but maybe,
Gotcha. Trampled by a horse.
Possible.
Okay, cool. Next.
Okay, now I'm going to take you to California. So I'm kind of moving backwards in my timeline.
Okay.
So silly me, having grown up in a very kind of spooky, haunted type area outside of DC, I thought that it would be less spooky haunted in California because in my mind, I'm thinking like colonial, like people, English settlers history. Wasn't thinking about Spanish colonial, wasn't thinking about Native Americans, wasn't thinking about any of that stuff. So when shortly after I moved to California, I started working at a brand new luxury resort on the coast. And I worked in a restaurant there. And I was told that this resort had a couple quirks because it had been built on native land. And the builders had actually worked with some elders to figure out where they could build things. Whether or not they followed those instructions, I don't know. But there were certain rules. So it was considered more respectful to... Sorry, this is just background on the place. Why it possibly could be haunted or something.
No, give it to us. We want to hear it.
So it was considered more respectful to leave any burial sites intact rather than digging up the bodies and moving them. But there were rules. You could pave over them. You could put sidewalks. You could put parking lots. You can put open air things in those places, but you were not to build enclosed structures over burial sites. So none of the hotel rooms were supposed to be built over bodies. None of the restaurants were supposed to be built over bodies, etc. Anyway, so I worked at a restaurant. This was in an area where the climate is usually pretty temperate. So a lot of the time we would leave, the doors to the restaurant open during business hours and whatever. The doors were really tall, heavy wooden doors. So for me, I would have to actually push my shoulder against the door and use my body weight to shove it open. And at the time I was a host in the restaurant. So behind the host stand also there's an arch that overlooks the main dining room that comes down a few feet from the ceiling. So that the things that I would experience there were a little creepy, but not too scary. For example, I would be standing at the host stand and one of the heavy wood double doors, just one, would open stay open for a couple of seconds, long enough for someone to walk through, and then it would close itself again. No people present. And also, again, like I said, when I would try to open the doors, I would have to shove them with my body weight. The door would just open very easily, as if someone were just like, pulling a door open. But the one experience that was really kind of funny and weird that multiple of us experienced together was on a New Year's Eve. So the restaurant was full of people, and there were a bunch of helium balloons that were just kind of like scattered around. So anyway, the dining room was full. There were 3 hosts at the host stand. We were just kind of hanging around because everyone was seated for dinner for New Year's. And one of the hosts pointed out that a single balloon had come down a couple feet from the ceiling, and it was making its way through the dining room. But whenever somebody would see it and we would nudge the other hosts to all turn around and look at it, it was like someone let go of the string to the balloon and it would pop back up to the ceiling. So we'd all watch it for a little bit, see if it moved again, and then we get distracted and start talking to each other. And after a moment, one of us would go, wait, look. And the balloon would be coming down from the ceiling and making its way through the dining room. But when all 3 of us turned around to look at it, it would pop back up to the ceiling again. So eventually, the balloon made it all the way to the opposite side of the arch that we could see the dining room through. And the balloon came down as if someone was pulling the string, went under the arch to our side, and then popped back up to the ceiling again. Beside the host stand, there were 2 windows, and one of the windows was open just about 12, 14 inches, but it was lower down on the wall. So the balloon continues to do the thing above our heads where it comes down, makes its way toward the window, pops back up to the ceiling, and then finally when it gets to the ceiling beside where the window is, it goes all the way down and just boop out the window. None of the other balloons in the dining room were moving. It was just this one that apparently someone felt like taking outside.
Questions?
I don't think so.
Okay, so here's where I stand on this nonsense. I'm not building over any dead bodies. Like earlier, I said, I don't know where I stand on all of this, but I'm not going to push it.
Don't.
Not even for a luxury resort?
Not even a resort.
Oceanfront property?
No, there are too many horror movies built on that premise of somebody knowing there are dead things.
And then building over the dead thing.
And then building over the dead things. Like you're just asking for trouble. I don't care if I'm working with elders or not. I'm not building over dead people. I'm just not doing it. Because then stuff like that happens. And I'm at a point in my life where I understand that not everybody thinks the way I think. And I don't think everybody the way everybody else thinks. And we believe different stuff and whatever. However, I'm not going to mess with other people's power. Right? For example, I worked with a guy for a while who's Native American. And he asked me, he said, hey, whenever you're on your way into work or way home from work, if you ever see a dead hawk on the side of the road, if you could just stop and scoop it up for me so I can use the feathers. And so within the United States, this is my understanding, I could be wrong, but how it was explained to me is whenever there is a bird of prey sort of collected through the people who collect roadkill, like that bird of prey is sent to a central processing facility. And then native people can write in and request feathers or wings or parts of these birds, for their ceremonial purposes. And the guy I worked with was just explaining that it takes a really long time from when you write in to get because you have to prove your blood quantum. I think that's what it's called. You have to prove your tribal affiliation. And then also depending on what kind of feather you want and how many you want, it's just a long wait. Eagle feathers being the longest wait, whatever. Anyway, on my way to work one day, I was almost there, a couple miles, and I saw a dead hawk on the side of the road. At first, I was going to pull over, and I said, you know what? I don't want to do this wrong. I don't want to just pick up this hawk and throw it in a garbage bag and throw it in the back of my truck. And, when certain things should probably be done to respect the power of this thing. So I get out to work, grab the guy, I said, hey, there's a dead hawk. Let's go get it. He said, cool. So we're driving out, and this guy is of Cherokee descent. So I'm pulling up to it on the passenger side, and he just starts screaming, "Go, drive, don't pull over, fast, go, whatever." And so I just floor it, boom, take off. A couple minutes down the road, I'm like, what is going on? You said you wanted a hawk. I brought you to a hawk. He's like, that was not a hawk. That was an owl. Owls are bad. Owls are no good. In my culture, some cultures, he was like a couple of like the sort of Southwest Four Corner tribes, really into owls. His tribe, owls are bad news. It's like, why are you trying to kill me? Like, I was trying to help. Again, cool. So at that point in time, I was like, look, bud, I'm not getting anything before you because I'm not messing with your good energy. I'm not messing with your bad energy. I'm not doing it. Because even though it's not my energy, like you believe it has power to it, and just in case, not messing with it. I'm not building a resort or burial ground. Not doing it.
Look, nothing ever hurt me there. It was just weird little things that would happen like that. Doors opening and balloons deciding they want to go outside.
Yeah, not doing it. How about you?
I wouldn't do it.
All right.
Go.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have another one?
I do. Tell me when to stop.
No, we've got time.
I feel like other people have much more exciting and interesting stories than mine. Mine are just like little things that happen now and then, or things I saw, or whatever.
It's all interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, so growing up in a very old part of the East Coast, I worked in a shop that had been a warehouse in the 1700s. It was a 5-story building. It's not what you would think of as a warehouse today. It was like, it kind of looked like a row house from the outside. The top 2 floors were storage rooms, just like bare exposed wood beams. The 3rd floor was the offices, the mailroom, and the break room. And then the first 2 floors were the actual store, the showrooms. So as a staff all together, when we would be closing up the store at night, we would wait for the managers to count out the deposit, and everyone would leave the store together. But we would all be hanging out around the cash register on the first floor, just waiting for the, deposit to be counted. And collectively, we would hear what sounded very clearly like someone walking around on the 2nd floor. Not just like floorboards randomly creaking, but like footsteps going from one side of the floor to the other side of the floor. And every time we were sure there was no one up there, but just in case, someone would be sent up to check and make sure that we weren't locking a customer in the store, and there would be no one there. So one day I was by myself in the break room, and which again, that's in the 3rd floor. And I was fairly certain there was nobody up in the stock rooms on the 4th and 5th floor. Above my head, I hear someone walking down the wood stairs from the 5th floor to the 4th floor. I hear them walking across the 4th floor to the set of stairs that goes from the 4th floor to the 3rd floor. And I can see the bottom of that staircase across the floor from where I'm sitting. It's across the office. I hear the footsteps coming down from the 4th floor to the 3rd floor, and nobody emerges at the bottom of the staircase. And then I start hearing the steps coming from that staircase toward the break room where I was sitting, and I noped the heck out of there, clocked back in, ran down the stairs. They were just like, "Oh, is your break over already? You've only been gone like 10 minutes. And I was like, "Nope, yep, I'm good. I didn't need much of a break today. I just want to be downstairs with all of you." Yeah, I did not like that at all. I was the youngest employee at the store at the time, so they also would frequently send me up to the 4th and 5th floor to retrieve stuff, because they were like, "You got young knees, you can go up and down these stairs." And to kind of illustrate how old the store was, there were still nails in the cross beams and stuff that had been hand hammered. They were like almost like square, the nails. And one day I was up on the 5th floor, and I noticed that there was like a chunk of hair like attached to one of these nails, like someone had hit their head and gotten their hair tangled on the nail. And don't ask me why, I felt compelled to try to pull the hair off of the nail, and the hair like crumbled in my fingers. It was so old. So anyway, my understanding is that the sister store to the store that I worked in was very haunted. People would see shadows on the wall. They would see people in the windows. They would close the store at night. When they reopened in the morning, stuff had been moved around. But the one that I worked in, it was just disembodied footsteps. So I felt grateful.
I mean, I have my own experiences there, not where you worked, but in that town where I worked, which was different stores. But yeah, weird stuff. A lot of history there. A lot of dead people.
I also so they do ghost tours and stuff there. It's literally called Old Town. It's Old Town. And I had a friend who went on one of the ghost tours for fun, and there was there's kind of a church centrally located on like a main road in Old Town, and there is a mass grave at the bottom corner of the church for Confederate soldiers, I believe. Or no, yeah, for Confederate soldiers. That's where the ghost tour was supposed to start. One of the guys in the ghost tour group had like a EMF machine or something that, it's supposed to be able to pick up on voices or whatever. And he said he heard someone say something like, "Oh, here's Nick." And he was like, "What?" And then the tour guide came over and was like, "Hey, everybody, I'm your tour guide. My name's Nick." And so I guess one of the ghosts hanging out in the corner there was really familiar with this tour guide leading tours in that area.
They're all friendly terms.
Yeah.
Here's this Nick dude again. Yeah, Yeah. Is that the same church that George Washington went to?
Yeah, that's what I was told.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not going to get too into my story, but so I worked at a video store there. Again, multiple levels, row house, old building. Weird things happened, but the quick nutshell history of that place was that it was used as a field hospital during the Civil War to treat soldiers. And like Robert E. Lee's boyhood home was 2 blocks away. And up until, I don't know, 5 years ago, there's a big statue from where all of the Confederate soldiers left to go join the Civil War. Not endorsing the Confederacy at all, just talking about history. They were on the wrong side of history. Probably why.
Yeah, this was in Virginia.
Why all of their ghosts are still haven't moved on, because they were in the wrong. They have some atonement to do. But yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff that happens in that town.
Yeah, definitely. I was, like I said, when I was younger, I used to really get like skin crawly sensations, heebie-jeebies, stuff like that when I walked into certain buildings or rooms or whatever. And so, yeah, I left that area when I was 18. That was part of the reason why, because I was looking for a place that gave me less skin crawly feelings.
Yeah, there's a lot of spirits walking around there.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I think I may have asked you this before, but somewhere along my journey into this realm, happened across a podcast that was talking about the Mount Vernon Monster.
Yeah, I have never heard of this thing.
Yeah, and we grew up.
I mean, we lived exactly in the area that you told me that this thing is supposed to have been spotted in, like the. Right. So there's a parkway, for people who don't know. Alexandria, Virginia, or Old Town, that area is on the Potomac River. And there is a parkway. It's like a 2-lane road that runs from Mount Vernon Estate, where George Washington lived, kind of along the river through Old Town. And eventually it goes, the other end of it goes over a bridge into Maryland, the opposite end of DC. So there's like a lot of wooded area, but there's also a lot of like kind of suburban residential areas along that. And we used to drive that route to school, daytime, nighttime. I never heard of this particular monster.
Yeah, and like, I mean, I would be in those woods at all times of day, on foot, and never saw anything. And also, I mean, just all the people, I mean, we were friends with people who worked on the Mount Vernon estate, and the parkway wasn't a real wide strip of land.
No.
There's
also there's like a footpath bike lane that runs along it too. But right. Also, for the most part, in between the road and the river, it's not a very wide space. Like sometimes it's wide enough to have houses on it or like a marina. But for the most part, it's a really narrow strip of land.
I would say most of it is less than 100 yards.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah. And also, I just don't know how the two of us being in that area and hanging out with the crowd of people we hung out with, how we just never heard of this thing.
Yeah.
And the person who I heard talking about it referenced things, like he went to the same high school as us, and he referenced things that I don't think he was necessarily there when I was there, but probably within a couple years of after I left.
When I was there or when I was overseas?
Yes.
Closer to my age.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the Mount Vernon Monster is supposed to be this Bigfoot creature. And again, I don't want to take away from anybody's experiences or say anybody's lying or anything like that. Just in my skeptic brain, I just don't know where Bigfoot would live.
Yeah. So can I go on a little bit of a tangent?
Please do.
Nothing to do with personal experience, just because I also listen to a bunch of, podcasts about these things and whatever. How do you feel about, or do you know about, have you heard about a connection that a lot of people have made between Bigfoot sightings and UAP sightings or UFO?
Yes.
And I've heard of a couple theories about this, but you started this.
So I'm kind of curious.
So take us down.
Well, no, I'm like, because I don't really recall anyone saying anything about unidentified objects in our area, but hey, maybe when I was in another country, there was some kind of UAP, UFO thing that happened. I don't know. And coincidentally, some people saw a Bigfoot-like thing. I don't know. But yeah, I've just heard a lot of stories about in areas where people frequently observe or people have observed what they believe to be alien activity. Those are also areas where people seem to have Bigfoot sightings. Yes,
and I've heard that, I've heard a couple different theories on how these things are related. And yet, I'm not saying this is the definitive theory on how Bigfoot and aliens are like buddies, and I'm not saying these people are completely crazy and it's wrong. I don't know enough about it. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we are not professionals. We are in this journey trying to learn more, trying to educate ourselves. But so one of the theories I've heard is that Bigfoot are aliens, like they are not native to our planet.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
And that they were put here by a different alien race to mine gold for the aliens. And that's why they're seen around a lot of like mining areas.
Yeah.
Because they're mining gold.
Yep.
Another theory is that the Bigfoot are just space traveling adventurers who stop here. Like they know where the good places to stop are to refuel, to get water, to get resources, to continue their space journey. Yeah. But basically, if you're following these two theories, there's probably a couple more that I missed on.
I mean, people also theorize that they're interdimensional.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there are portals that they go through.
Right.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of Bigfoot theories. Also that they are, I'm not going to pronounce this correct, but the Nephilim.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
No.
And this is pushing my biblical knowledge a little bit, but the Nephilim are the children of angels and people, right?
Something like that. I don't know. Honestly, most of what I know about Nephilim is from offshoot book of the Wrinkle in Time series by Madeleine L'Engle.
Okay. So,
but they're kind of like, they're like earthbound. Like, whereas angels are supposed to be able to, move around in different, places. I don't know. Nephilim are earthbound.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So regardless, like they are not full-blooded creatures of heaven.
Right.
So
either that or they're like disgraced angels.
Okay. Yeah. So and I've heard various things. So either that they're offspring of angels and people, they are disgraced fallen angels, they are part of the tribes of Ham.
That's why they're covered in hair.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
And various other like biblical explanations as well. Yeah, I'm not a particularly religious person, so for me it takes a bit to wrap my head around those theories.
Yeah.
But also interdimensional, so they can pop through portals. Also, that they have cloaking technology, sort of like Predator,
mm-hmm.
or that they have a similar gene to chameleons, where they can change their coloration and patterns, or octopi, pusses.
I think I've heard somebody say that, like, some of their hair is, like, see-through.
Okay.
I think I've heard somebody say that.
Yeah. There's a lot of theories surrendering our pal, Bigfoot, Sasquatch. Also, so one of the podcasts that Randy and I listen to is put on by a guy from the Blackfoot tribe on the Blackfoot Reservation. So he discusses, and his guests discuss Bigfoot, a decent amount. Do you want to say something about that, or do you want me to?
You can.
Okay. So one of their historical theories was that Bigfoot was a protector, and specifically for certain tribes. And so whenever they would have a sweat or something, Bigfoot would come and protect the sweat so it wouldn't be disturbed, and so the people inside it would be safe.
Okay.
Another person, he was talking to was saying that Bigfoot is more along the lines of an earth spirit or earth guardian, and they're put where they are, or they are where they are, to protect that area, or to be shepherds of that area.
Yeah.
And he was saying that, some reports have them smelling really horrible. And the way he was explaining it was that the reason that some of them have this horrible smell is because the area they're in has been so polluted and mistreated that they're taking on that trait of the area.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so areas where that's not as polluted or hasn't been as mistreated or misused, they don't necessarily smell as bad as
skunk ape.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, there's a lot of theories about
yes,
big hairy things in the woods.
But all this to say, I've never heard of a big hairy thing in the woods around the area where we grew up.
Neither have I.
Yeah.
Neither have I.
Yeah.
Okay. If you are up for it, do you have a story that you have something going on with like cats?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you mind? You can say no.
No.
Mind?
I'll
Okay.
tell it. Actually, okay. I never expected to meet someone else who has the same thing, but I do know at least one other person who has the same thing.
Oh, so, spectacular.
Yeah. My earliest memory, I have always seen cats that at least don't exist on our plane. They don't exist in a little 3D sort of way in our plane. Most of the time I see them out of my peripheral vision. It's in places where cats should not, for any reason, be. For example, I worked a retail job in a building that used to be a bank, and sometimes I would do the shipping role. And all of that was done from the basement of the bank building, which where, old bank vaults and stuff were. And occasionally I would see a cat running around down there. And it's not like a shadow or anything. Like I can actually see the colors of the cats. They're not always the same color. They don't always have the same hair length or anything. They look like cats. I don't know. The most interaction I ever had with one, I was maybe 5 or 6 years old. We lived in a house that had a really big tree in the front yard. And I saw a fluffy gray cat sitting at the bottom of the tree. And I actually walked over to it and leant down to pet it. And when I should have been touching the cat, there was no more cat there. But yeah, I don't think I see them as frequently as I used to, but I still, from time to time, I see, these cats. Yeah. I don't know if it's like a spirit guide situation. I don't know if they're ghost cats. Like I said, the other person that I know who has seen these, an apartment in New York where I live now that he was living in, there's a black and white one that he saw in that apartment more than once. And they did not have cats in their apartment.
Gotcha. So for the cats, in our earlier episode that Randy and I recorded, I was telling one of my stories. And so I was backpacking in Great Smoky Mountains. And I'm going to condense the story a lot because I went into detail earlier. But one day I had a lot of miles to do. I had like 30 miles to do one day, it's a lot. So I got a real early start and I was just cruising. And typically when I'm backpacking, I like to take my time and just more stroll and just enjoy being in the woods. And I don't enjoy crushing out miles, but that day I had to cover some ground. And I came around a bend and we were along a creek and we came around a bend and there were 5 wolves there were 5 wolves in the middle of the trail. And wolves don't live in the Great Smokies. I've had many people tell me this and say, you saw coyotes, you saw wild dogs, or you didn't see anything, like you're just making it up.
I mean, under any of those circumstances, that would be a kind of startling thing to see.
Right. But like I've spent enough time in the woods where I know what coyotes look like. I know what dogs look like. I know what wolves look like. These were wolves. And like 3 of them, I can't really tell you what they look like. I know they were there, but they just didn't leave a lasting impression. One of them seemed to definitely be the leader, and that one looked like your stereotypical gray wolf. There had gray on it, had some white on it, had coloration.
Right.
And that one and I, like, we made eye contact and we were, assessing each other. And then the last one was all black. And when I came around, it was the one furthest from me.
Okay.
But then as the leader and I were, whatever we were doing, it came around and positioned itself between me and the rest of them. Like it was, the bodyguard or whatever. And then, however long this interaction lasted, they eventually sort of all moved off together up. And so we were down in this little valley between 2 arms of the mountain. And so they sort of moved off up the side, and there wasn't a lot of underbrush. So I could see them going, and it was like it wasn't that they disappeared into the underbrush or they went over the ridge and I couldn't see them anymore. It was more like their images as they moved off dissolved.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's like the only time anything like that has ever happened to me. I told the Rangers, the Rangers were like, "Oh, you didn't see coyotes. Coyotes don't live here. Wolves. Like, you saw coyotes." No, they were wolves. Like, I saw wolves.
Yeah. I don't know if coyotes typically come in black, but
right.
Yeah.
Right. And and one of them was like, well, coyotes or wolves don't live here. And my response was, well, you need to tell them that, because I sure as heck saw them. And I'm sharing all of this to get to my, I guess, I don't know, point, question, or whatever. And again, as Rainey and I have listened to podcasts and done my own research into stuff, I think, and I'm interpreting your vision, so you can tell me if I'm wrong or not. But to me, like, these cat experiences seem to fall more into like fairy experiences.
Okay. I can see what you're saying, because so again, like a lot of the things that I feel like I've experienced in my life, I would categorize more in like the ghosty realm. But the cat, I don't know how to explain the cats. They're not, like I said, it doesn't really seem like they're haunting the places that I'm in or whatever. They just kind of show up and run around. And other than the one that sat still long enough that I thought I was going to pet it, and then just kind of like wasn't there anymore. Like it wasn't like poof. It was just like, oh, I thought there's a cat here. There's not. Yeah. So yeah, I want to hear about your fairy explanation, Kayla.
Well, like, I don't know if I fully grasped the fairy theory that I'm going to try to explain.
The good people.
But I will do my best. And my hope is that like somebody is going to eventually listen to this and be able to shed light on my lack of knowledge, and we can have them on and discuss it. That's my hope.
Can I interject with a little like thing? Sometimes I have issues with anxiety.
Uh-huh.
And, I talk with a professional about it, and they asked if I ever hallucinated. And I was like, no, sometimes I see cats. One time I thought this guy was getting in my car, and she's like, that's okay. That's okay. That's a common thing that people with anxiety have those types of experiences. So I was wondering if the fact that you have anxiety, the fact that I have anxiety, whatever, the fact that people have anxiety, you're kind of always on alert. So maybe you're more aware of crazy stuff that's going on. It's not your brain making stuff up that's going on. I wasn't given an explanation why people with anxiety tend to have more of these type of experiences. But I was wondering if it is like a different alertness, that you're noticing things happening that other people aren't noticing because they don't have the same kind of like, their antenna's not up all the time.
Right. And going along with that, really, I have unique experiences on a pretty frequent basis. And I'm not just saying unique as in seeing wolves in the middle of the woods or whatever, just like unique and interesting experiences, whether it's like there was a year stretch where every 2-year stretch where every couple of months a car would flip over, like as I was driving, not like a car I was in, but I'd be behind a car that would just flip over on the road, or there'd be an accident, a car flipped over or whatever. But it was every 2-3 months a car was flipping over, and I was the first person to respond to it. or like I was in Vegas one time and I happened into a get together where Shaquille O'Neal was DJing. God, I think his DJ name was like DJ Diesel or something like that. So like just these interesting experiences, present themselves to me on a frequent basis. And so I tell people about them all the time. Like, hey, guess what happened to me this weekend or whatever. And people frequently tell me I need to write a book on all of these things. And for a long time, I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I really think these experiences happen to everybody. They just don't talk about them like I do.
At one point, someone told me I should be kept in a box and studied.
My theory has evolved that I believe that everybody is open to these opportunities. Like these opportunities present themselves to everybody. But like you said, I think that people are so like in their ways and put tunnel vision on that they aren't open to these experiences, whether the experiences is, seeing cats or like partying with DJ Diesel.
Yeah. Well, I think that to some degree people intentionally turn themselves off too if they do have the openness. Like I think I mentioned earlier, when I was a child, I used to see stuff a lot that wasn't explainable, like people who were in quotations really there or whatever. But I had one particular experience that scared me so badly that I kind of stopped seeing people for a while, rarely see them anymore.
And I think probably what we're going to do is, if you're open to it, we'll probably have you on for another episode where we talk about all that stuff.
No problem. I know this is going kind of long, but also let's get back to so the wolves and the cats.
So fairies.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not a professional. Rainey and I just enjoy doing this together. We are trying to expand our minds and learn more in this process.
Yeah.
Right. And do it together just to, have some time together. But with a fairy theory is that one, they're similar to one of the Bigfoot theories where they are portal travelers. So they can blip in and out through these portals, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then another theory sort of going along with that is that they are also able to change shape or present themselves in a way that would be more understandable to whoever is seeing them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So with my lack of understanding of the McFap universe and just trying to make it more understandable for me, is I would put these, and maybe even my wolf sighting, but your cat sightings into this fairy realm. And also, like, when I say fairy, I don't just mean like Tinkerbell, right? Like these little creatures with wings that flit around and sprinkle.
Well, there's also, like culturally, like there's a bunch of different explanations for or beliefs in what the good people, fae, whatever are. For example, there are some places where they believe that they are another race. In some folklore in Europe, there were battles between them and humans, and eventually they went to go live underground, and sometimes they kidnap people, or they do harmful tricks to people or whatever. That's part of the reason why some people don't refer to them as fairies, because it's you want to be respectful and not draw their attention. But then there's also other beliefs that, some people don't even believe that they should be in the Americas, but that it's like more of like a European type of thing.
Right.
Like
I'm going to interrupt you real quick.
Yeah.
I have a bone to pick with those people because I think that that's just a very colonial way to look at things. And again, listening to this native, because that was one of Rainey's and my questions early on, was like, are fairies a strictly Euro race of creature or not?
Yeah. There are things, especially when you think about them as small or shape-shifting type of things. They're definitely, almost every continent that has humans on it has something that would qualify as a creature like that, or as an entity like that.
Right. And there have been quite a few people on this native podcast who have talked about, I guess, fae is the more inclusive inclusive term, but things that would fall under the fae category. So like they're talking about like little people and yeah. And when I say fairy or when Rainey says fairy, most of the time, and we should probably work on that wording on this.
Yeah.
You know, we're like the fae umbrella is pretty big. So whether it's fairies or elves or pixies or brownies,
nature spirits,
gnomes, like those all fall under the fae umbrella.
Okay.
Right. Going back to what you were saying earlier about like they should just be in Europe. One of our early questions.
I'm not saying that I hold that belief. There are people who do.
Yeah, no, definitely. Was like because there have definitely been sightings of fae other places than just Europe. And so one of my early questions was, well, did fae hitch rides on the ships and come with the Europeans to where, or go with the Europeans to wherever they were going and colonizing?
Kind of like American Gods style.
Right. Or does each land have its own native fae? Or is it a combination where like, yeah, some did hitch rides, some are native, and then, and so there is a combination. I think
they could have come across land bridges.
Right.
It could be that they're ancient enough that, just like other animals, at some point they had a similar origin and ended up evolving differently. Yeah.
So this leads me, do you have any other questions or comments on this?
I do have a comment that birds will stare at me when I go outside sometimes.
Okay.
I know that they're staring at me.
Like all kinds of birds or specific kinds of birds? Just curious.
All kinds of birds.
I kind of have an affinity with cats. I'm really good with cats.
So the larger question that we're exploring with all of this is, and there's no right or wrong answer to this. It's I think it's unknowable, but we each have our own theories or viewpoints on this. So do you think that the McFap umbrella, so mythological, cryptid, fae, alien, paranormal, that all of these things are related in some way? Or do you think each thing is its own branch? Yes, branch.
Oh, I don't have a definitive answer on that. I feel like some of them have crossover.
Yeah. So I guess let me clarify. So do you think they're related in the ways that like a chimpanzee is related to a gorilla, or they're related in a way that a chimpanzee is related to an alligator?
Right.
Or just no relation at all?
So I also am not an expert, but I would say that there could be an argument that, for example, fae and paranormal could be related, or fae and aliens could be related, or cryptids and fae and aliens could all be related. Like there's so many different things out there that I don't think it's exclusive. Like I don't think they're always related, but I definitely think there are situations in which they can be related.
I think a lot of interpretation, like personal interpretation, goes into like personal cultural norms.
Right.
So I think when people do have these experiences that they can't explain, that they try to explain it in a culturally normative way so it makes sense in their head.
Yeah.
Right. So I think people who have been raised very Christian, like that, their first explanation to make it make sense in their head is going to be some kind of Christian definition.
Yeah, like angels and demons. You hear a lot about angels and demons.
Yeah. Right. Versus, somebody who's been raised more woodsy or earthy is going to have like a different way of defining these things versus somebody who's been raised in a very patriarchal system versus somebody who's been raised in a more of a matriarchy, right? I think people define all these things to make it make sense in their heads when these sort of unexplained things happen, because I think it can be sort of a...
I mean, there's also like a lot of instances, like documented instances, where it doesn't even have to be like a paranormal or weird thing that happens, but someone sees something that is so out of the ordinary for them to see that their brain makes it into something that would make sense, but for example, someone might see what is very clearly a dead body and their brain goes, oh, that's a mannequin. Someone left a mannequin out in this ditch in the woods. how weird, you know? And then they go along with their day because it's like, they've never seen a dead body before. Why would there be a dead body out where they're walking? But I mean, there are other examples too, where people see something and it's clearly a thing, like it's clearly a thing, but they are so taken aback by like what they're seeing that their brain can't comprehend it, make it into
Right.
something else.
Like my wife, we lived in the woods for a while, and one of our dogs came to the back door, and she got me. She said, "Oh, the dog has a rabbit in its mouth." And I looked at it. I said, "That's a deer." "Oh, no, it's a rabbit." I was like, "Nope, dog's killed a deer and it's dragging a deer around." But again, it was that's what her brain was processing, was there's a furry rabbit, not my dog just killed a deer and brought this dead deer to our back porch. It's just it's like how our brains interpret things and allow us to continue acting without having a complete breakdown, because it's whatever
without,
it is we're
without
experiencing.
destroying your worldview. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you now.
Okay.
So if you were supposing that fae or whatever, or spirits, whatever they are, change their shape based on the viewer, do you think that our brains are actually like cats are non-threatening to me? So there are things running around me. You know, there are things in the room with me that shouldn't be in the room with me. So I'm like, it's a cat. You know, there's something in the middle of the trail that shouldn't have been in the middle of the trail. And you're like, well, clearly that's wolves. Or Rainy, you're out, you know, you're outside and stuff is staring at you. And you're like, I don't know why these birds keep staring at me. Do you think that what we're seeing is really cats and wolves and birds? Or do you think that that is what our brain has to tell ourselves so that we don't feel like we're going crazy?
Do you want to answer first, or do you want me to?
I have to think about that
Okay.
one.
Or are they actually shape-shifting? Like, is that actually the form that they're taking because they know that that's something that we're okay seeing?
I don't know. And again, it goes back to my, like, I'm not 100% committed to this yet. But assuming I am, I think it could be a combination of all of the above.
Okay.
I think it could very well be there could have been 5 gnomes sitting in the middle of this trail, and my brain just was not willing to process that there were 5 gnomes in the middle of the trail. So it said, hey, you're seeing wolves, right? When wolves do not live there. But just that's more believable for my brain than what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
That could very well be a possibility. It could also be a possibility that whatever it was did in that moment were in the shape of wolves.
Mm-hmm.
It could also be a possibility I saw 5 wolves.
Mm-hmm.
I think all of those things could be possibilities. And I don't know enough to say definitively, this is the answer. Like, you know, I can't say definitively, I saw 5 wolves and they were definitely wolves.
Okay, one more. I'm going to throw one more little theory question out there.
Hold on. Before you throw
What Bo said is what.
Okay.
So you think that it could be a possibility that you're seeing fae creatures, but it's more easier to understand in your head that they're birds.
Yeah.
And it could also be a possibility that the birds are just staring at you.
Yeah.
Okay. Did I get that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Am I leaving anything out of that?
No.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay, so my last one is one that we haven't discussed, and that is time slips, which wouldn't necessarily explain the birds, but do you think it's possible that you're experiencing time slips? Was there ever a time when wolves did live in the Smoky Mountains?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if there's ever a time that there were cats running around in a bank vault in Santa Barbara, but yeah, how do you feel about the possibility of time slips? Like maybe you were temporarily, one or both of you, experiencing a timeline that's not the one that you technically belong in.
I think that's one of the theories about ghosts that we didn't really get into. Maybe we can get more into it next time we talk. Is that is that ghosts don't really exist how we see ghosts. It's really just this, the veil is thin in some places. And the places where it's thin are where these interactions take place.
Okay.
Right. And whether that's the veil between different universes or different times or different, parallel existences. Right. It's where that veil is thin. And that's also one of the theories about Bigfoot is that big feet have somehow established a way to where the veil is thin, where they can travel between the veil.
Okay.
We know the veil is here and we know it's thin, so we're able to travel back and forth between the veil and the unveiled. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, sure.
But that's one of the theories about ghosts, is that like we're not really seeing ghosts, like we're seeing.
Yeah. So again, we'll save it for next time because.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are multiple different types of ghost sightings or ghost interactions, and like some of them, seem more like the veil is thin, whatever, and some of them, different types of hauntings, I think, have different.
Yes.
They exist differently.
Yeah, and I'm just going to tell you, like, poltergeists creep me out.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, conversation for another time probably.
Yes.
But a lot of people think that poltergeists are actually, because a lot of the time they happen in homes with adolescents.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's save that conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, put a pin in it.
Okay, before we wrap this up, do you have anything else you would like to say?
No, I mean, I think I've done plenty of talking for now. Thanks for inviting me to tell some stories and have a little conversation.
Oh, no, thank you. Rainey, do you have anything else you would like to say before we wrap this up?
No.
No? Because you're good if we wrap this up?
Yeah.
Okay. So we should probably tell everybody how they can like contact us and where to find us and all that, shouldn't we?
Yeah,
Okay.
probably.
Okay. First, if you want to find us on all the socials, one, we're not the best at like updating all the socials, but we're there. We'll get there. We'll like, you can find us there. We'll get better about actually like doing the posting thing. But for Blue Sky, we're at McFap. And again, McFap is MCFAP. So Blue Sky is mcfap.bsky.social. On Facebook, just McFap. On Instagram, we're at McFap_podcast. And if you'd like to email us, it is mcfappodcast@gmail.com. And along those lines, if you're out there and you're listening to us and you're like, hey, you know what? I'd like to talk to those two fellows. Shoot us an email. And because we if you have an interesting story that we can keep family friendly, we'd love to talk to you. And lastly, we would like to thank MC for joining us and sharing her stories. And we look forward to talking to her more in the future. So signing off, I'm Bo.
I am Rainy.
And thank you for your time.